podcast number 4. How are you? How have you been? How are you doing since we talked last time?
I've been good. I'm at a different location. I'm in my aunt's apartment right now in Paris for an internship. So
Okay, awesome. What's the internship? It's the
it's
newspaper thing,
for
right? That's what
yeah.
you were saying. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that sounded dope,
It,
dude. What are you doing there?
well, I'm right now I'm like helping different journalists. I'm not really tied down to like one service. I'm in like the service enquête, which is like I don't know what the word would be, but they like investigate like the investigative like service. But I help like different services around, so like I just ask around if journalists need help, and I'm writing an article right now. I followed the journalist around while she was like interviewing someone for an article, and we went like at a on location stuff. It's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know if that answers your question.
that sounds cool. Yeah. And you've been enjoying that then? That's like kind of what you were thinking it was going to be going into it and everything, or how's that? Have you been enjoying it?
Yeah, like if I didn't know I wanted to be a journalist before, I definitely do now.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was thinking the other day because I kind of just switched, I a little bit switched to, yeah, it was kind of what you were saying where I a little bit switched to journalism, like, and wasn't 100% sure. It was just kind of an interest I had at the time, which is
Mhm.
originally why I did psych. Like, psych was just interesting to me in high school and stuff, and then I just, you know, thought I'd pursue it a little bit, and then I just kind of got to a point where I'm like, okay, maybe there's more interesting things, and that's
Right.
what led me to, like, trying to start podcasting, enjoying like storytelling and talking to people, and then journalism plays really nicely into that, So it's
Mhm.
yeah. It feels
Yeah.
good though to kind of get that like I don't know what the word is, like I guess you're like trying different things and then you kind of get that feedback, I guess is what I'm saying, of like okay, yeah, I think I want to do this kind of thing, Which I'm still
Mhm.
not 100% sure. Like it sounds like you're a little more sure than I am maybe. But I definitely, yeah, that internships like that sound like such a cool thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's very interesting because a lot of information is just storytelling, the way that we tell the news and stuff, and I want to make that accessible. That's my long-term goal. And
Mm.
so now an internship like this helps concretize it, but yeah, like now I just know it's just like there's information to be told. There's like some more helpful than others, and I want to help people navigate through that.
Yeah, and you were talking last time about your website, right? Which is pretty much that's the project you're working on to try and do that, right? To get information out to people.
Mhm.
And oh god, I was just about to say something. I forgot what I was gonna say. But
I haven't worked on it too much right now. I'm gonna work on my blog more, and like once I figure out how to consistently produce content for that, it's gonna transpire into the website because if I know
yeah,
how to
it's
consistently
hard to
make
launch.
content.
I was gonna just say it's really hard to launch a website on its own like that for sure. Like if you develop a following on a blog or something, that's really gonna just support you when you do really start to get that website rolling out because that website to me it sounds like a really cracked idea. Like
Hmm.
I would definitely pursue that. That sounds like a it sounds like you're doing the
Yeah,
right thing with that.
and, and like to figure out like what topics to talk about, how to talk about them, how to get information. I'd need to like make a blog post about a certain topic to kind of distill down the information I need, and then I'm able to like transfer that into the website, kind of like that, and then I can find more information specifically for the website.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And it sounds like you're kind of you like know what you're like you know what you want, right? Like you seem pretty confident in how you're doing it, and like to me it seems like you kind of have the spirit for it, the like, kind of entrepreneurial spirit thing for that, which is fucking awesome, dude. I kind of wish I had that a little bit more, but
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
I have the drive. I
Yeah,
know
you
kind
know
of
you
what.
can do it, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you're doing all the right steps too, which is like huge. Like you're not even just trying to throw everything at this website and then if it doesn't work, you like get discouraged. It seems like you're definitely in it for the marathon, not the sprint, right? So
Yeah, well, I want to be completely honest. I have the drive. I kind of know kind of what I want, but I'm a procrastinator and I have no idea what I'm doing. So
everybody
I'm
is.
just trying things. Yeah, I'm just trying
I don't
things.
believe people that tell me that they're not a procrastinator, man. Like everybody is a procrastinator. Like it takes I feel like it takes so much out of you to just consistently be able to do something like over and over and like it just fucking grind it out just for such a long period of time. That's such a difficult thing to do. Like literally everyone
Yeah.
procrastinates their shit, man. So as long
Generally,
as you're coming
yeah.
back to it, you know, as long as you're not like you procrastinate and then you're just like, I don't want to do it right now. I'll just like if you come back to it in a week or so, whatever, you know, you're still staying on the right track at the end of the day. So
Yeah, generally, if someone, because I met people who aren't really procrastinators, but what I found is there's always at least one thing. If someone's always on top of their shit, there's always one thing that they just always think like, I don't want to think about that right now. I'll just do that later. Always,
exactly,
just
yeah,
always one
yeah.
thing.
Nobody's perfect. Definitely nobody's
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
exactly. So I don't know how you wanted to do this, but if you want to talk more in depth about a certain subject, I might not be able to play the game while I do it. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind if you were. You know what I
I was
mean?
just thinking we would talk. Honestly, I'm
Oh,
totally
perfect.
good to just talk. We don't have to game or anything.
Oh,
Um,
that's actually perfect.
awesome. Um, but yeah, I guess we can get into that Alan Moore stuff because that was super interesting. You were sending me that, and the whole idea is like hermeticism, right? And like fucking words and art and just creative shit is actually magic because what you're doing is you're changing someone's state of mind. What is that? You're casting a spell. You're having an effect on the real world using your own invented energy, right? And
Yeah.
to me, that seems like such a cool and like actually just intelligent idea. Like I feel like I always have these like if I've ever like that's definitely like the type of like high thoughts I have sometimes, but like but to me that's such a like you know that like that's been my experience my whole life is just I can if I give out positive energy, that's what I get back, right? If I give out negative energy, that's what I get back. And it like saying that almost sounds egotistical because it's like, okay, people's energy is what I give them, right? So it's like, okay, I'm the source of this energy, but that's not what it's about. It's, you know, you can still just you don't have to center that idea around yourself. You can kind of like have other people, right? They give you their energy, all that thing. Like it's all a big thing, some more energy than others, whatever, right? So it's just like but that idea of just like and then when you like actually try and make you put effort into something as well into a project into like art or writing, right? That's like an even more direct and kind of like a more like focused form of that, right? Of like you have this idea and you really like you're able to think and revise and all these things that make this idea more and more compact into its like purest form, right? And then you kind of just let that go on people, and then people are like, you know, they understand your idea, and it like changes the way they think, and that can affect their life, and that affects how they interact with other people as well. So it's a whole big butterfly effect, the whole thing, really. But
Exactly.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I really want to kind of make it concrete for people because I talked to you about this. I was watching Hassan. That's the first time I watched it. Hassan watching the Wisecrack video, and both him and his chat really didn't get it and kind of got mad at it. And I think,
I kind of hate
yeah,
Hassan sometimes, man. Hassan pisses me off. Like, I like some of Hassan's takes are all right, and I don't really watch that much Hassan really, but like he pisses me off where he just like writes shit off sometimes, and I'm just like, all right, whatever, dude. You're just a fucking like
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't blame him too much because it's like he streams for so long where like
Yeah, it's
if I
true.
had like a chat like yelling at me about shit, I'd probably
And
be
you have to
like,
like
fuck you, I'm not watching
exactly. You have
that.
to be like constantly thinking and shit too. And like if you're trying to come up with like a complex idea while watching that in your whole chat, and you just don't have anything, then it's like, all right, whatever. Like
Yeah.
you can't really
But
blame him.
that's why like I want to make it very concrete for people. So one way that can you see me well? Can you hear me well? Sorry, I was
Yeah,
bugging
yeah, you're
on
good.
the
You're good.
okay.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, one idea of like magic is to say like, imagine that I mentioned like, think about like Mario's cap, like Mario's hat,
Okay.
and then you picture that in my mind. Like, do you have that in your mind right now?
Yes, I have it in my mind. Yep.
Okay, so you have like the hat, the logo and shit. Basically, the idea of magic is that me, by telling you, by using language to kind of just talking about that concept materialized in your mind, and then materialized in a way that's very similar to how it would exist if you were to see it or like interact with it in a video game. I only did that by talking to you in a way that's kind of a spell. By telling you something, I was able to conjure something in your mind. That's basically the basic idea of Alan Moore's spells and how like magic is used.
And what Alan Moore was saying too was that this whole idea connects. I see Josh and looks like JR and Brandon are in chat, but we watched that movie As Above, So Below. Have you ever seen that?
No, I
It's
haven't.
a
What's it
horror.
about?
It's like a horror thriller movie, but it's basically these like archaeologists. They're like, I guess in their like mid-20s or something. These archaeologists, guys and this girl. They're like really obsessed with the Philosopher's Stone, right? They're obsessed with it. They're on their Full Metal Alchemist shit, right? And
Yeah.
and so what? And her there's this archaeologist girl who's like kind of the main character, and it starts off with like her dad basically kind of like went crazy and killed himself looking for this Philosopher's Stone, and so this girl, she goes down with her other archaeologist friend, and then these other they're looking for it in France, actually in Paris. They're looking. They think it's in like the catacombs, and they've found all this information on like what's that guy's name? The like inventor of alchemy is like Nikolai or Nicola
Uh,
something. You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're
You know who
talking
I'm
about.
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so they go to his gravestone. They find all these like clues. It's all a big fucking, all a big game. Thank you for the sub, Cody. I appreciate that. Or no, that's Brandon. My bad. Appreciate that.
Nice.
5 months. Um, yeah, but they get all these clues from his gravestone. They go underground in the catacombs, find some people to lead them around that know their way on like the secret parts of the catacombs and shit, right? And they just start going further and further underground, and then they come to all these like little riddles and shit. It's like such a cool movie of like different levels, but then they're all like going further down into like insanity and all these. They start like having these like there's all these people like that's been living underground for years and shit, like mole people and cults doing shit. Like it's a fucking crazy movie.
Damn.
But the whole
That sounds
idea,
crazy.
the whole idea of what it's called As Above So Below, which was in the thing you showed me, of like different levels of consciousness and everything. They're just building blocks and are like kind of mirrors of themselves in like different I don't know what the best word is, but like you get what I'm saying. Like they're just different levels,
Yes.
and they kind of reflect each other, and you can build upon them. And then with that knowledge, you use that to kind of reach that next level. But by the end of the movie, they keep going down, but then they like come out at the very bottom of that. They kind of like hit rock bottom. A bunch of people die, and then like they just come out and they fucking like do. It's kind of a dumb ending, but they come up out of the sewer after going down for like miles and miles, and they just come up
Yeah.
out of the sewer back into Paris, and it's just like, holy shit, that was fucking crazy. And I'm just like, oh my god, dude.
That's it. That's like the as above so below idea is kind of complicated. I think the guy in Wisecrack really described it well in the sense that like the Promethea, the comic series that he
Yes, yes,
talked
yeah.
about.
I've never read it or seen anything about it, but the way they described it, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the 12th book, 14th book, I don't know.
Is it
And
good?
it's so fucking
Dude,
good,
it
dude.
looked
Like
good. I'm not gonna lie to you. It looked really good, yeah.
there isn't any piece of media like anything written, filmed that I can reference it to. It really just fucks with how it talks about how you perceive reality and the idea of like there's 31 comics
Hmm.
for like the 32 paths and things in like the Tree of Life, and there's a 30-second comic with 32 pages, each page reflecting one
Yeah,
tom
that's
or
what
like
that.
one comic. Yeah, that's like as above, so below is the idea that like
It's
by
like,
looking at
mm,
one thing, it's like a reflection of something else that itself is a reflection of that thing.
because they
So
have
you just go in the loop.
yeah, they have that like whole series of that 20 books, right? And that one series is that reflection of each of those 20 books, as well as those 20 books. There's something in them which is a reflection of that whole series. It's just a whole big,
Yeah,
yeah, like which is such a
yeah,
cool, like I love like art and shit that's all meta like that, like it's all made with a purpose behind every part of its making. You know what I'm saying? Like when you
yeah,
make a sculpture that's like made out of something creative, or it's like those like dot paintings where it's like a little just a bunch of different colors of dots and it all comes together to be one big like face or something. Like
yeah.
that's
They're
that
called
type
impressionist
impressionist. That's
paintings
what
in
it's called.
French, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I learned that in my art class, but I got a C, so that's how it goes.
yeah.
Um,
If you wanna go more into the Alan Moore ideas, I think I can actually talk about them in terms of Promethea by just like spoiling the first book, which is not that much of a
yeah,
spoiler,
that's fine. That's
because it
fine.
makes more sense.
Sure, go for it. Go for it.
So basically, the idea of Promethea is that it's a heroine that was born like before, and basically like there's one Promethea that comes and like is Promethea, and when she dies, like another person takes her place, kind of like a superhero thing. But the
Sure.
idea is that like you have like the person has like to write what Promethea is, or like write a poem, and then she becomes it. The idea is that like if everyone thinks you're Promethea, you're Promethea. Like if everyone
Yeah,
thinks
perception is
if you're
reality. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All that whole thing. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Like if you're a young schoolgirl, like a nerdy young schoolgirl and stuff, but literally everyone on Earth thinks you're like this badass warrior and stuff. People are gonna see you that way, and that's kind of the entire premise of Promethea. In that, like we like to talk about like, oh, I live in reality. I like see what's there, and I experience reality in itself. But we don't. We experience reality through our senses, and our senses are filters. And on top of that, like on top of those filters, we have concepts like a superhero, a strong person, a tall person, a short person, a beautiful person. And so that's when like we start to get away from what there is, because like we have to imagine like things as like objects and separate things to like be able to make sense of the world. But in that, we stop seeing things in themselves, and we kind of see the labels we attach to them. Did that make any
That
sense?
makes a lot of sense, and I also want to
Okay.
note to add on to that type of thing is what has such a big or what I've noticed for myself, and then I've seen in other people as well, has a similar effect down that type of line or that type of effect is one's own like mental state, right? So that's another huge filter laid on top of things like depending on if you're under substances, if you're depressed or anxious or whatever, you're gonna perceive things what is not reality. Basically, you're going to delude yourself with that. Like that's such a thick lens that it causes people to be really really deluded, right? And it's once you come out of that, you just like fuck, man. Like what the fuck? Like it's just so crazy coming out of that and just being like, huh? I was thinking that, huh? That's so weird. Like it's and like once you combine that with like all of those things you were talking about, and it just makes this fucking this maze really of just things perceptions you have to recognize before you can do anything about that to figure out whatever is reality, whatever is the truth, right? So it's figuring out what perception do I have right now? Why do I have it? Do I have like, you can ask yourself these types of questions to kind of understand yourself better, and then you can kind of build upon that to pursue, whatever you want, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like people also don't realize like we don't see things, and of course like normal states of mind, depression, things like this like affect how we see the world. But even something as simple as, I don't know if I told you this, but like your front door. Like people don't see their front door. Like even people don't see their houses necessarily because they don't feel like they need to look at it, so they don't look at it. But then like every single day, like let's say they live in a house for 3 years, they maybe see their door once, and then that's it. And then when you make them realize that, they're like, oh yeah, like I never actually look at my front door, my brain just kind of fills in what I think is going to be there. And that's how, like, if you have like a friend or a parent has like a daughter or son or whatever, that like where they don't see them, they can kind of miss like changes in them that kind of show that like they're not looking at them, if that makes any
That
sense.
does make sense. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But other than that, yeah, the basically the thing that attracted me about Alan Moore's philosophy is that, and especially in terms of politics, and this is where it's kind of ironic that Hassan didn't get the video, because he talks in terms that Alan Moore would kind of agree with. For example, when he talks about like Republicans who think the election was stolen, they literally, and I think this is true, they say that they live in a different reality, and that's why you can't just like argue with them about facts or talk to them about facts, because the
Yeah.
set of
Yeah. You're
facts
in
they
you're in
rely
two
on.
different you're in two different realities. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't bridge that. You need to have common grounds to be able to argue with someone, and that's what some people
Hmm.
don't realize, and that's what leads to pointless argument. That has to be your first step whenever you try and engage someone in an argument is, okay, what do we agree on before anything else? Because if you don't have anything you agree on, you're not like mathematics, right? Is just set up on a set of made up axioms, right? It's not actually anything. It's just a made up set of rules that to create logic, basically. And so if you don't have those set of rules, math is just nothing, right? So
Hmm.
it's that type of thing of like you have to be able to get somewhere. You have to set rules. You have to set boundaries. You have to find common ground with someone.
Exactly. And like some people, not everyone, most people genuinely want the best for what they see in the world. But that's where I used to think that, but I don't think that anymore.
You were
The
you
the
were
thing of
naive.
like,
Yeah. No.
yeah, I was a naive boy, dude.
Uh,
But yeah, the thing of like, oh, every opinion is kind of like valid, and most people want to see like the best in the world. That's not true, and that's not true, especially when it comes to like Republican pundits. Not like common day-to-day people, but like the people like, I don't know, like Ben Shapiro, fucking Steven Crowder, politicians like extremes like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but like basically any Republican politician, when you really get down to it, they don't actually want what's best in the world. They want to push their agenda, but so the way they do that is by pushing a narrative, and you see this, and this is where they kind of project
people people
onto
love
like,
people love narratives, man. People love
yeah,
narratives. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
and
You know the thing of like the left wants to create outrage and stuff like this. It's like if you look at the Satanic Panic, and even just like that's getting more into it, but like a critical race theory. It's just
there's
like
like
pushing
yeah,
something.
like
Yeah, it's literally like magic. It's introducing a concept and then giving that concept whatever definition you want it to have, which is what's happening with
you can
CRT.
you can create concepts and just people will just start following it. Like you can just as long as it makes a decent amount of sense in the way you explain it. It doesn't have to actually make sense. As long as you can explain it in a way that it makes sense, which are what narratives are basically, is like you explain something whether it makes sense or not, you're fitting it into a story that makes the positions of your ideas clear, And people like that. People like when they can say, "Oh, I like this idea because it shows this," right? And it's like that type of thing, you know. It's
Yeah,
it's
and
a little bit
that's
of
where.
identity politics played into everything.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that's where like a lot of what politics is, and this is where Alan Moore's philosophy is really helpful. A lot of what politics is just creating the framing where whatever you want to say kind of becomes true. And that's where kind of magic comes in, is magic in the sense of I am going to say things about the world that are going to shape your reality. So like you might not live in like a poor part of the country, you might not live in Syria, Afghanistan, but then I'm going to tell you what's happening there, and you're going to create that mental image, and then that mental image is going to be whatever that country is in your mind,
Yep.
and you're going to think of that as hard reality. Like, I know what's going on, I watch the news, I have that idea of Afghanistan, but that, like, that's not what's happening,
That's the
even if your
news's
information
idea.
is
That's
accurate.
what the news wants you. Like I don't mean to get too like fucking, but that's what the news is portraying to you. Whatever is reality, it could be reality, right? It could be they're just giving you everything raw. But that's like that's you have to kind of search that out, right? If you're just watching CNN or Fox News, like you're not you're not seeing what's happening. You're just seeing whatever it's cut together for. Like that's what it is. Like editing is magic, right? Editing takes away from parts of reality to create that narrative, which you could say isn't reality, right? And so it's like that's all. There's all these different forms of like. So to me, it's because everything is kind of like that. How could you not say that? That idea of hermeticism and what Alan Moore's talking about of magic. Like, how could you not say? How could you say it's not real? Really, because it's just so many things play into that. Everything that is like a human's creativity, which is what kind of I think humans pride themselves on, is their ability to create and be curious and everything. All of that is what plays into these magical effects of changing people's ideas.
And that's where, well, actually, like, kind of to follow up on that, I want to create, like, let's push that idea. Let's say,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
you
Push it.
watch
Push
the
it.
news. Yeah, let's say you watch the news, and that news, like, gives you 100% accurate information all the time. Even then, the idea of magic is intensely relevant, because what you're going to do is you're going to take that information. Let's say it's true. You're going to think of it as true, and it is true. You're still going to be missing most of the information necessary to have like a high resolution accurate version of what's happening in France, for example, is. So even if you're getting completely pure information, people don't like to think about this, but the idea that what they fill in, they need to fill in a lot of things to like make that idea concrete. Because if you learn, like, I don't know, there's like a migrant crisis or something in our country, or like there's like police violence, you still need to fill in information to kind of imagine it as a concrete thing in your mind. So you can never actually like 100% have a completely accurate version of what's happening in and of itself, but you can get very, very, very close to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is like, I know, like, my version of reality, I know I can't see things in themselves, like the material and the immaterial in the video. I
Yep.
don't know if
Yep.
you
Yep. I
remember.
saw that. Yep.
And so like you can't I think is see the immaterial, but what you can do is, if you think of reality as like a picture, with a certain like pixel resolution, you can get a higher and higher and higher resolution for that picture the more accurate details you learn about the world. But that resolution is never going to be 100%. You can get to like 99.5.9%, but it's never going to be 100%. But like having a 99.9% accuracy, or resolution on your image of reality is better than like 30%.
I think, and one thought I had is that I think everyone experiences immaterial to some degree, right? Like most people have dreams,
Mm-hmm.
Most people or some people will try drugs or will try different things, and just at the basic level of people read, people have their ideas changed by other people, right? And um, and like if you experience that, then you begin to grasp this idea, which is like, okay, there's kind of this. I don't know if I'm ready to call it another world yet, but it's like there's this idea of this whole set of things, ideas, feelings, whatever that I can't see, and that when I'm experiencing them, I'm put in a place that I wouldn't normally be, right? And so when you're put in that
Mm-hmm.
place where you wouldn't normally be, when you're kind of exploring, even it's it's like once you spend a little time exploring, you start to you get the lay of the land, right? You understand like this isn't just like a couple ideas that are, you know, oh, you take this little drug and you kind of feel this way, and yeah, that's cool, right? And you're still connecting it to the real world. It's like there really is a whole other set
Mhm.
of things out there that you can explore. And what Alan Moore, or what that guy was saying, I don't remember if it was Alan Moore or that guy who was saying like how drastic it can be for humanity to explore more that way, where it's like when we moved from sea to land as a species, it's that level of transformation where we're in this like metamorphosis of, okay, we still don't know everything about this other thing. We're trying it, we're exploring it here and there, and then, we'll probably stick where we are. But then it's like more and more people are kind of beginning to follow these ideas and like and to look into that type of thing, and it's like, how is this all going to play out? Like I don't know if it's a good thing, I don't know if it's a bad thing, but it's an interesting thing for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. It's definitely also about the ocean. There's so much that we don't know. It kind of brings us back to the fact that like our whether it's our brain or the physical world we live in, we really don't know that much about like how we operate and where we operate in the world. There's still like a lot we need to learn basically.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, one thing I wanted to go back on kind of is the material and the immaterial, because I'm not exactly sure if I understand it correctly, but to me it kind of goes back to I don't know, are you familiar with, and I'm not a philosopher so I'm not good at this shit, but like Kant's when he talks about things in themselves.
I mean, I understand the idea. Do you mean just like general kind of meta shit or whatever? Like, I guess I
Kind
understand.
of, yeah.
I guess I understand the idea of that, but I haven't read much Kant's or anything now. So if you want to
Me
explain it, that
neither.
would be, or whatever your idea of it is, whatever your understanding is,
Yeah.
go
So
for it.
let's say that like I'm talking to a laptop right now. And this is where like my dislike for like what we call common sense kind of comes in, because like I have a laptop right now. In itself, it's not really a thing. Like it's not an object like separate from it everything else. It just kind of is. Well, let me think about it. How can I make it more practical? If okay, this these are like my earbud case. Right now I'm seeing it's white. It can open. It can close. There's like my earbuds in it and stuff. I have the knowledge that like if I take one out, I'll be able to listen from it. But if I take that in the context of my own perception, I'm like not hearing anything from it because it's not making any sound. It's the texture kind of like feels like nice, whatever. But if I think about what it is in itself, there's a lot of things I probably can't perceive about that. There's like whatever colors or like frequencies I'm not able to perceive. It's communicating with my phone in Bluetooth, with which I can't see, and all of that kind of that dumbs down my understanding of it, where like I'm only experiencing a certain number of things about this thing, and then I'm imagining it as this thing separate from everything else that has like cultural meaning basically. And then I tend to think that like we put too much importance in like the cultural meaning we put into it, because it's necessary to navigate our world, but we need to remember that that's like it's not it's
It shouldn't
basically
be. It shouldn't
not.
be definition. It shouldn't be what defines things at like that deeper level, as much as it is, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like it can be what defines it in our common understanding, but when we're talking about like what like deeper, like what things are really, and like getting to the bottom of things and science, the thing with science is that it's only an approximation of everything we understand about the world, but the point of science
Yeah.
is to prove science wrong so we can constantly like prove us wrong to like keep
Yeah.
getting more accurate information, the like
Exactly.
resolution idea I talked about.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
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 And so like the thing that's always interested me is how we kind of stop at our own perception and we talk about reality as like the thing we perceive, but really like we need two words for reality. We need the word of everything, including what's outside of our perception. So it includes like everything in the world that we can't necessarily perceive like with our normal human body. And then there's our perceived reality, which is all the reality that we can kind of experience. But even that perceived reality is altered by our mental state, our physical conditions, whether someone is blind, not blind, colorblind, emotionally, like how they are, and everything. And yeah, we basically just need like two different words to really accurately talk about the world.
Hmm.
Don't really remember exactly where I was going with that,
Yeah,
but
no,
that's
you're good.
basically
You're good. You're good.
yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude.
And
Nice.
so I'm going through it, and I'm going through the video, and I think it basically talked about like Alan Moore's philosophy pretty well, in the sense that like his goal was to create like a set of media that kind of overall changes like all of our perception about the world, and that's how he tried to bring out the end of the world. I think it's like a cool like creative project, but it was never really meant to really like be like a tool for convincing exactly. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
it's more of a tool to like help us understand how the world works.
Yeah.
But in his idea, like it actually does make sense, because like our perception of other countries, of what it means to be a hero, like if you look at Marvel movies, that's shaped us for like the past like 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And what's it called? One thing that I really liked about the way that everything was presented, Alan Moore's ideas and everything, was that it wasn't like a. It felt like there was no ego in it. It felt like there was like a. He's got these ideas and he's just presenting them. If you want to accept them, and you understand them, great. If you don't and you don't, that's cool too. No worries. Like it's very much a like, okay, I have this like really cool thought and I want to share it with people. But if people don't, it's there's no like wanting acceptance or anything in it. You know what I mean? It's just an exploration. You could even say,
Mm.
yeah.
What did you think of when he was starting to talk about like putting nonsense words in order to reproduce what like certain mental conditions were? Like, did you get that part? Because I know a lot of people were lost with that.
I I'm not sure if I got that completely. If you wanna, do you have a good understanding? You think you could go off of to
I
explain
I,
it to me?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
So let's say you have the word chair,
Sure.
right? Okay, so if I say the word chair, what do you think of?
I think of the chair I'm sitting in because I'm touching it. I think of a wooden chair, just a basic chair. Four legs, little kind of a couple things in the back, but in general, just a wooden chair at the back. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's tons and tons of chairs out there, but that's if I get what you're saying of like, what do you think of when you think of chair, right? It's what comes into your mind, and that's what comes into my mind is the one I'm sitting in, and then just a regular wooden chair, I guess. Yeah.
Mhm. So basically, what people think of when they think of that, like they think of chair, they think of the word, they think of the concept, they think of the chairs they've experienced, everything.
Yeah.
Then, so that's like for English. Then, if you go into French, you have the mot chaise. So the mot chaise in itself, like, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't speak the language, but then you learn about it, and then you learn about like the word. But then, like when you think about the mot chaise, that's not necessarily the same thing as a chair. It is if you translate it in your language. But if in my culture, like chairs are like most like commonly what you think of as stools, then what you think of as a chair, as a chaise, is not necessarily the same thing as a chair. But if you translate the word, it is. And so that's when you start to get into like actually, like, what is a chair? You know what I mean? And then you start to think of like, let's say I spell the word TCHAR, like chair, like TCHAR. If you look at the word, you might think like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. But then if you say it, it does. It's kind of like that TikTok trend where you make someone say a bunch of words and it makes them say like something inappropriate. Have you seen
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I know
It's
what
like,
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like they repeat and they're like, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. And then like in that trend, you can see that idea in real time. It's like a bunch of words are not the concept in the person's mind that like the other person filming like think it is. But then they repeat the word, and at one point they get it like instantly. And that's when a set of word that has nothing to do with the sentence that they're trying to get them to say like becomes that. And then a random set of word becomes another sentence. Kind of the idea of like as above, so below. It's like the letters in themselves, like the visual aspect of it, they're like completely different. But when you add the phonetics, which we link with the visuals, then it's like weirdly they start to become linked. But why? And so, what? So far, is it making sense? Just to check.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
Okay, and so what Alan Moore was getting at is that like, and I haven't read that issue of Promethea yet, but he basically was putting them in a nonsense, putting like sentence in a nonsense kind of way, but when you read them as phonetics, they start to kind of get meaning. But then it kind of like that TikTok trend. But then if you think about that TikTok trend, like why are we getting meaning from things that like are not meant to be that? Like why can you read a sentence phonetically and then it starts to make sense? And so what he was getting at is like writing words as kind of nonsensical so that you force yourself to use phonetics, which is one aspect of language, to kind of understand what it's saying. And then once you start understanding what the nonsense sentence is saying, you have to think like, well, where is that coming from? Like the visual aspect of it doesn't make any sense. The phonetics kind of don't make any sense. But by hearing the phonetics a certain way, I can start to link concepts into them. And so that's when you start to like see like the kind of like shaky foundations of like language in the sense that like it's not that solid, you know what I mean? And by playing with language, by playing with like visuals, phonetics and things, you're able to kind of replicate a state of mind by tricking your brain into hearing something that's not there, or like seeing patterns that make you see and think of concepts that like at first glance you can't see. And it's kind of approaching that like that like a double entendre, or like what there is that you can't perceive, in the sense that like you can start to get meaning from things if you just repeat them, or if you just use a certain angle of language, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I'm not sure I got 1,000% of that, but I get the general idea you're going for.
I'm still a bit hazy, so
Yeah.
like I haven't like described it completely
Yeah.
well, but yeah,
No, it's all good.
It's
Yeah, no.
yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, like it's kind of the main point is like it's a lot like that TikTok trend. Like you can demonstrate it literally with TikTok, of like making people say random words until they realize that it's saying like something about like something sexual that they're like embarrassed to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about.
Did you have? Yeah. Go ahead.
I was a little bit different topic, but I was thinking about mentioned TikTok, making a TikTok and doing like podcast highlights on a TikTok. I feel like that would be a pretty good format, because I know there's these two guys. I don't know if they come up on your feed, but I think they're pretty popular on American TikTok. This like white dude and black dude, and they're just these kids who are like, I don't know, they're like 17 or something, 16, 17, but they just like, they just have good conversations, and they post these little like 30-second highlights and stuff, and they're not even like, it's not good content like that much, honestly, but it gets a lot of shit, honestly. So I feel like I could maybe get a TikTok going. I feel like that would be a decent format to do highlights, because I don't like having to chop the entire hour and a half podcast up into little 30-second highlights and just post highlights together, because that's just so much work for a YouTube video that I'm gonna get fucking 10 views on, and it's just like, oh god, like I just want to post the whole podcast on YouTube and then do highlights on a TikTok. I feel like would be a good idea, but I don't know.
Well, especially for podcasts, I think like if you want me to do timestamps for this, like I'm absolutely down, because I think timestamps help a lot.
Timestamps, yeah, they're hype. They are definitely good. The last one, I think I only did. I probably did like 40 timestamps for the last podcast I did, but dude, that took me like 2 hours just to like feed through everything, figure out what to name each thing, like to actually like not just be like, okay, section 1, section 2, like it definitely takes a little bit, but I'm totally good to do that on my own, dude. I can do that for my own shit. But yeah, I don't know if are you interested in like in social media stuff and like building a brand or anything like that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm like less focused on brand and more focused on content in the sense that like I hate like advertising myself. I just want to make shit and then post them and then
Yeah.
that's it. You know
I
what I
like
mean?
that. I like that as a really pure idea, and I definitely I respect that, dude. Seriously, but like I've just found that like if I do put out like I put out like I have I think one video that I would consider a banger, and I have probably like I don't know 20 25 videos on my channel now, and like one video that I consider a banger that I spent probably like 20 hours editing and shit, and like oh my god, dude. And I got like 50 views, you know, it's decent, right? But like when it is a little bit discouraging I feel like I put out like and I don't expect more than that, you know, because like that's just not how the system works, right? That's not how the algorithm works. And so I don't expect more than that, but it is disheartening of just like, oh my god, I feel like I put so much work out there. And like I feel like I don't do a lot of advertising. I'll just like tell my friends whatever. And I've never even posted on like Instagram or on Snapchat or anything about like my stream starting or anything like that, you know. Um, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying of just like you want to put it out and it just be fucking awesome, and if people want to watch it, they can watch it, and it's just like yeah,
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Like that's okay. That's basically like what I want, but that's I know that's not how it works. And the problem is
yeah.
like if I don't advertise things, like they won't. No one is gonna watch them.
Yeah.
I just know that's how it
It
works.
all depends if
But
you
like
want
I.
people to watch it or not. If you want to advertise, that's really the and how much you want
Mhm.
people to watch it, I guess. Because
Yeah.
obviously, like you know, you do your work, you know, for yourself mostly. You just kind of like you'll make something that you think is really cool and you just post it out there, and that in and of itself is awesome, right? And then if people want to watch it, if eventually it starts to pick up, you know, great. And that's how I've been looking at it. Kind of is like I've just been trying to post consistently, and then if it's starting to pick up, maybe try to advertise myself in different ways. Maybe try and take advantage of momentum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so far, I haven't had much momentum. So
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely hard, but yeah, the way I approach it is like right now, and this is how like we talk about like especially artists like they is it like one hit not one hit wonder but overnight success is
mhm.
like we think like an artist just has to make one song then it pops up and then that it pops off and then that's it.
That
But
is
no,
not how
like
it fucking works ever,
no,
ever. That is
like
not how
yeah,
it
you
works.
need to have the work ethic at
Fuck
10
no. That's
subscribers that
yeah.
you would have at like 1,000. It wouldn't be exactly the same, but like
And
it
you build
literally
upon it each
doesn't
time, right?
matter.
You learn from each video. You know, you get better at editing, and like that whole thing happens, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be, right? Your content's supposed to get better before you start getting views. Like that makes sense to me, you know. But
Mhm.
like you know, and that's what I've been trying to do is like, but you know, because the most recent video I posted, I basically just like sat there and told a story while I was doing rings in Rocket League, like that
Mhm.
was my whole video, and I thought it was that's a decent video, right? Like if you haven't heard that story before, it's a pretty good story. It's about like a 40-mile hike I did with my brother and a couple friends, and like it was so fucked. Like it was just such a fucked hike. But you can watch the video after or whatever. But it was yeah. And then I like edited it a little bit, you know. But I still left a lot of the kind of like pauses to think about it and just kind of nice continuity. I felt like. But at the beginning, I kept saying, you know, I was a little nervous. I wasn't like fully in that like storytelling mode, you know. So I edited out a bit at the front and then just left the whole thing there. And it's like a 17-minute video or something. So
Mhm.
like stuff like that I really like making, you know. I don't really care if people watch that or not, but for me it's just I was trying to keep my weekly schedule, you know. I wanted to post that day, so I just made that story that morning cuz I couldn't think of anything. And then this is
Yeah.
probably what's going up next Sunday. So
That's the kind of content I like making. And honestly, like the way you're talking about posting content, as long as you're consistent, like that's right now, if I understand correctly, like the YouTube algorithm likes consistency
yeah.
above all else.
Yeah.
And so if you just respect a schedule, like it's gonna be like kinder to you in the future.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I totally agree. I got a little pissed off when I first started because I posted a video and like a couple of my friends were just like kind of fucking just memeing on me and they were like disliking it and shit, and I'm just like, all right, dude, what the fuck? Because that fucks my algorithm, and I'm just like, all right, dude, fuck you. But like, it's not that big of a deal, really. It's just one video, whatever. It's not gonna have that much
Oh
of an
yeah.
effect as like a schedule over time. YouTube can tell your
Well, I
yeah.
I don't think like a dislike. I'm
Yeah, it
sure
doesn't.
like
It
this.
literally doesn't matter. There's huge YouTubers
Yeah.
that get disliked, and it does nothing to them, obviously. So it's just
I'll
yeah,
dislike all your videos. Don't
yeah.
worry.
Do
I'm
it, do
kidding.
it, do it, do it, do it.
That's how I knew like because I started making videos I think in 2014. It was like movie YouTube videos, and by the way, this is where I empathize with you. The two videos were like the one video where I literally made the least, it's the least amount of effort it took me because it just was going so well that I didn't have to do that much editing. That video, I have like 150 subscribers at the time, and it still racks up views. Like I have like
Oh my
20.
god! Wait, this was back in
I have
2014 too.
yeah,
Oh
yeah, I
my
made it in
god, dude!
2016 and it has 30K views at this point, I think. And it just
What?
like racks up hundreds of views and there's two
What
videos
the
like this. And
fuck? Wait, Robin, are you famous? Wait, what?
no, 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 no,
Are you
no.
famous, Robin? What?
No, fuck no. No, but it's funny as fuck cuz it's like it's
30K views? Oh my
yeah.
god! I
It's
didn't
a
know
it's
I
a
was sitting
fall
with a famous man. Oh god!
it's a Fallout video. It's like a video where I use like Fallout footage, and then there's a video with Guardians of the Galaxy footage, and there's kind of like a niche for that on YouTube. And I don't know where it got posted, or like maybe the algorithm just really likes that video because it just kind of gets recommended to people, or they click on it, and I cannot figure out why, dude. Like I still can't. Like those two videos just. They've been like killing it, and
And
I
why
literally
didn't
spent the least amount of
why
time.
didn't you keep making those videos then if they were doing well? What about them? Or
Well, they weren't because like that those got like 1,000 views like pretty early on, but the other ones were making like hundreds of views, but like that's basically it. And it got really fucking annoying when I made like music, like movie music videos especially, that I put a lot of time editing, and basically I was like, for my Dark Knight one that I never posted, I tried to take a music that kind of fits the movie, and then I have to figure out a way to make the plot of the movie coherent in 3 minutes. Like I have to take like movie bits, like plot bits, beats, and like make it make sense on screen, because like some music videos just make no sense, and I didn't like that, and I would get a fucking strike because I used a movie, you know what I mean? Or
mm,
like a song, because it's some videos are literally like copyrighted movie and a copyrighted song. And so like YouTube, with how like strict they are, especially with that shit, like if I made music videos now, it would I my channel would probably get taken down at some point. So I was like, I got discouraged, and I was like, nah, I'll stop making this. And so I started like later, like couple years after that, I started making music more, and at least like I can't get
yeah,
taken down because of it.
yeah, yeah. That's cool though. You're still transitioning your creativity to something else. Have you ever watched Dr. K or Healthy Gamer GG? Yeah, you've
Yes.
watched him. Yeah, yeah, he's awesome, dude. I watched the recent one with Mitch Jones. Do you know who Mitch Jones is?
Nope. Give
He's
me a rundown.
yeah, he's a WoW, or he used to be a WoW streamer in the early days of Twitch, and he was really like he'd like hit rank 1 and shit. He's a really good player. Has like a really kind of nice personality and stuff, and he was good friends with Reckful. Do you know who Reckful is?
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guy.
Rip.
Yeah, yeah, Rip Reckful. But they used to be really good friends. There was a little bit of drama and snakiness and shit or whatever, and then they weren't as good friends, but they kind of made up later. And then obviously Reckful passed away. But yeah, man, he was talking about like how he's transitioning out of streaming, and he just like he had built up this whole persona, and he'd become as successful as pretty much anyone on Twitch, and he's just leaving it leaving it all behind because he just realized this is not fulfilling him, he's now on this spiritual journey where he's meditating, and he started to do music. I think he dropped an EP last week, and it got like 500,000 plays in like the first day or something. So so he's doing pretty well with that too. But yeah, man, that guy he's. It seems like he's like found all the success in the world, but still definitely has some rough emotional stuff going on.
Hmm. So what were they talking about? Just mainly like the fact that he's transitioned away from Twitch,
Yeah,
like what he's been doing with the music and
they
stuff.
were talking about that. They were talking about his music and how hard that is to leave behind and stuff is what Dr. K was saying. But Mitch came up with like what he said was it really wasn't that hard, right? It was just it's not fulfilling me. So why am I doing it? Why am I putting on this fake persona? I don't enjoy it, and people can tell I'm faking it. It's not, no one's profiting here, so leave it behind, move on, find something else, right? And like to me, that's such a confident and cool like kind of way to think about that and go about that. But then they also talked about a story of like because I watched he did one like 6 months ago or something on he did a Dr. K interview. And back then he was really like having trouble, and he would kind of just Dr. K would like ask him to like meditate just a little bit, just like sit there and breathe, and he would like start crying and stuff. He's like really in kind of emotional. He's all fucked up and everything. And then now he shared this story of like when he was like younger, having to his mom had an illness where I guess she had like multiple strokes, and she was kind of out of it, I guess, and then he has a brother who is autistic, and then his dad is like really career driven and does something like that. But a story of like his dad leaving and putting it on him, saying like, oh, I called Child Protective Services and they're coming to pick up your brother, because they don't know, his mom can't take care of his brother anymore, so they had to drop him off at some place, I guess. And and so the police come, they're trying to get his brother, and they're like NA cops, so they're fucking like scaring him, and they don't know how to deal with him being autistic, and they're fucking like they start getting worried and like hands on their gun kind of thing, like everyone's getting super scared, high tense situation. And Mitch, I guess, is like 22 at the time or something, and he doesn't know exactly what to do here, and he just has to deal with this whole situation by himself. But it was just this whole idea of like his father, not being there for him, and yeah, which fucking sucks.
And this is why we have an epidemic of kids without their fathers.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
But that's fucking unfortunate. Like NA cops are absolutely not trained. They're expected to do the job of social workers, but without the training. It's insane.
Yeah. I feel like yeah. There was a tweet Andrew Yang dropped like I think during the election at some point, which was about like how like 30% of killings are involved with someone who's like mentally ill, with police killings, that is. And it's just so much like fucking destruction just happening that's so unnecessary, and it's just like, oh, it's fucked, man.
Yeah. And like it's not only the US. Like I'm slowly starting to like learn more about it, but there's a lot of problems with like police brutality in France too. And I'm not a huge fan of like laws that are being passed. And there's a one that passed in January that like basically kind of makes it, there's a more of a gray area now about like filming cops. And so like, yeah, it's a problem all around, especially with the rise of like just open fascism, just literally like open fascism or like open Nazism. It's like where's this going, dude? Like this.
Wait, so is that a thing in France? Like open fascism? That's a thing in France.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's
this
because I feel like I heard something on the news about that, and like how Americans kind of don't have that view of France, of it's like an open fascist place. like
No,
some parts of
it's
America,
not.
but like
It's not that like France is an open
yeah,
fascist
yeah,
place
I
at
yeah,
all. Yeah,
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 but
yeah.
that
It,
occurs. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah,
yeah,
like
it's more in the ideas and in the possibility of it like incorporating itself more into politics, especially with like we have this thing where it's like kind of think of it as like red alert that we've had since like terrorism, since the terrorist attacks in like 2015 and stuff. That allows the president, the government to have like more control and more like surveillance and shit. And even that is not too bad, even though like I'm really not a fan of it and it could degenerate. But I meant it more in the sense of like there's this one guy called Zemmour that like that has gone like kind of complete fascist. Like I actually listened to him recently, like an interview and a debate, and it's like the dude is educated and he speaks Arabic and stuff, and so like he talks about like Muslim, the like Muslim religion.
fascists that speak Arabic are the most likable people. I swear to God, like they just fucking or that's their likable card. Is like oh, but I speak like it just it's such a like, and I don't mean to like speak down on him or anything, but like yeah, it's such a that's like a thing of just like a very few people. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it shows that like at least you're not ignorant. Like it shows that like at least you're a little bit
Yeah.
understanding of other cultures and stuff. So it's
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's the scary thing about this dude is he's far from being ignorant. He's very well educated, but the way he uses it is actually like trash in the sense
Yeah.
of like he
You
grew
can
up
still
speaking
yeah.
Arabic, and he like opens with like it's like a beautiful language, a beautiful culture too, or like I don't know if he says beautiful culture, but then he like starts from there, and then he starts getting into why like
Okay,
Islam
so
is
he's doing what we were talking
completely.
about earlier. His narrative driving his own shit, right? Yeah, that's exactly
Exactly.
what he's doing. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like, I know how to speak Arabic. My
I
mom spoke Arabic,
yeah
and so I know that it's incompatible with our Western culture, like
yeah.
completely.
It's
And
just
then you're
like
like,
shut up, just fuck you,
yeah,
because it's not even like you're ignorant. So you can't just be like, look at this dumbass. It's more just like what is no like why would you what like it's just kind of like a like why what actually
yeah.
makes you like because he's it's just that he's got a strong narrative with that, right? That is a strong narrative of
Oh, it is. It's
because
a great story.
he's playing really hard into identity politics while also being of a separate identity, you could say, I guess, or he's like multiple identity kind of politics doing that, which makes a really strong arguer if you do buy into identity politics. Because some people just
Oh,
don't, and it doesn't
yes.
work on them. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
but I think like most people do for sure. Like most people do.
Hmm.
But
Oh yeah, and like I follow American politics because now more than ever I'm convinced that American culture is kind of upstream from French culture in a lot of ways. Where
what do you mean?
now
Wait, what do you mean by upstream? What do you mean by upstream?
Okay, so you know how you know the narrative, kind of also pushed by Jordan Peterson, those types that the far left controls the media, controls the universities, and all that. Like, have you heard that of the
I've
far
heard that.
left?
Yeah. You're
Okay,
indoctrinated by the university left and everything. Yeah. I've heard that.
right. So that kind of has taken form in France, in its own way. But I feel like it's almost the same thing. It's Islamo-leftism, and what Islamo-leftism is in France is a concept that says that like most schools and stuff are trying to indoctrinate your children with like the worst aspects of Islam, and Islamo-leftism is like incorporating itself in media and it's controlling the schools and stuff, and it's becoming a real problem. But when you think about it, it's literally the same way that they talk about the far left, in the sense that like when they talk about the far left, they mean both like activists and corporations, and like ignoring the fact that like how they describe activists and corporations is completely inaccurate. When you lump in leftist activists with fucking Google, you're already doing something wrong. Like Google is not left leaning, and that's when you start to realize that the concept in itself actually doesn't exist. It's like you're mashing things together
You're
that
trying
don't.
because that's to me that's the gluing part. that's the part that makes the narrative work. That's the part that really connects the whole thing, is like, okay, and then there's these things that are these way leaning, and that's what, like, at that point you're starting to reach, right? And so that's where if you go too far into that, if that's like your main thing, people aren't going to buy it because your glue starts to fall apart, and it's like now your narrative is broken down, you know? So
Exactly.
yeah.
It's like it's saying like, okay, so what do I see? I see people who are advocating for gay rights, and I see Fortnite who puts some rainbows in their game. So what I'm thinking is, oh, they're both in
Yeah,
on
and
it. They both have the same agenda.
And there's also,
Yeah.
humans naturally make a connection between things, right? Humans will naturally seek out, like, okay, this is happening, like, these two things, it all matches up, it's perfect, we're finding a pattern. Like, pattern recognition is a basic thing for humans, and then also you can go further into it where you're looking for patterns where there aren't any, right? And it's just like, you know, if you can find a pattern if you're looking for it, and that's what it is. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's another lens that they're looking through already that create that pattern recognition instinct. You know what I mean?
Right. And like ultimately, like I'm glad companies have to pander to like gay trans people, because it means that like we're progressing as a society where it's like common to see like supporting that as like a good thing. But just because a company put a rainbow as their profile picture for a month does not mean they actually are doing anything to support us and to support like literally like anyone. And so like it's important to make the differentiation between like people who are fighting to make a genuine change and like superficial change that like corporate capitalist companies are doing to increase their revenue, because that's ultimately what they want to do, you know. They might not be interested in doing change, but at least they have to show it. But then they have to act like they do. But then like people make the false assumption that like, oh, just because they show an ounce of like support, then it means they're completely radicalized, which is insane.
Yeah, I agree. I think people, it's just, I don't know. People get caught early with these takes. They get caught early with their perception of what other people's takes are, and then they start drawing conclusions really, really fast. And those three things just lead to a little bit of misinformation happening a lot, and misperceptions of other things. Makes people angry, makes people, like, they don't understand why someone else would think that, and it's just like, you gotta question things just a little bit, just to actually be like, okay, this is a person. What are they thinking, and why are they thinking it? And then if you aren't able to go at least beyond that, like, to me, you're just pushing a shitty take. Even if it's the right take, it's still shit because you don't understand what you're saying. And it's like, if you can't even like be able to reach out to another human being on these types of things, it's just like, what the fuck are you, like, there's no good to come of you doing anything. Like, that's what that's basically my perception at this point, is like, some people, I'm not telling people to stop talking. I'm just saying, like, if you're, like, just think a little bit,
Burnham
man.
vibes.
Just think a fucking little. Yeah, exactly. Just shut the fuck up. Like, just shut the fuck up. Like, just shut the fuck up. How about that? Yeah.
They say while talking on a podcast.
Exactly.
I'm fucking with you.
No, that's
But
exactly
yeah.
what we're doing. Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily want people to necessarily like understand everything about everything, in the sense that like one thing I don't like about the left right now is we're like not as cool as the right, in the sense that like you can be literally anything. And I don't mean that because I think that the left is cooler than the right, but like you can be trans, you can be black. If they don't respect your rights, like if like right wingers don't respect your rights, they'll still have you and use you to like make money and push their ideas. On the left, you need to be pure as fuck.
It
Like
kills me, man.
Yeah.
It kills me. Like, why are we doing that to ourselves, man? I just fucking take a joke. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. We just need to make things concise, understandable, and we need to be able to say,
we gotta
like,
separate the ideas from the things people are saying. Because people that gets a lot of confusion just right there for just the left, Like, they'll have the ideas, two little lefties just talking to each other, right? They have their ideas, it's all great, and then one of them says something that's a little bit sus, just a little bit sus. But then it's also like, kind of a joke. Okay, I'm making it clear that it's a joke, whatever. And then it's like, oh, I don't know if you can say that, buddy. And it's just like this little confusion. But that on a bigger scale, basically. Like little conversations like that don't matter, obviously. But it's just like, yeah, that type of thing I think is such a waste of energy. And yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Before I add my 2 cents, I saw that we were coming up on 1 hour. How long do you want this to be?
I am honestly, I'm good to end whenever we kind of hit a dull moment, so we can just
Mhm.
keep going for a bit, up to maybe another half hour if it goes that long, and then we can cut it
Mhm.
off there at that point. But yeah, does that
Okay.
work? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
Awesome.
But yeah, we make things too complicated, and we need to allow more for problematic shit to still be enjoyed. For example, like I love Silence of the Lambs, and like the way it approaches like trans people is kind of, it's some of the better example from that era, but it's not that her. It's just kind of iffy.
Yeah.
But just because something has like problematic ideas in it doesn't mean it can't be enjoyed, or that it's not good as art in general.
Exactly, that's true.
And
I
yeah,
think I
and
think you can separate ideas from, like, if they're in an art form, it's different than conversation or political. Like you can still separate these things while analyzing them like next to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like you can still
Mhm.
analyze them in a context without saying that they have to all be the same thing. Because I
Mhm.
still like the like creativity to me deserves to be like completely free. Like if you're making art, you deserve to be free of any type of political bounds or restrictions. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah, I have a question for you.
sure, sure.
Uh, so if I say all art is political, would you like agree, disagree, or like kind of be in the middle on that
I
statement?
wouldn't
What do you
say
think about it?
I would not say all art is political. No, I would disagree.
Okay, why? Like, can you kind of go
So
more
so
in depth
I
about that?
looked into this idea a little bit in my art class. I took art appreciation, just a 101 course or 111, and basically there's a lot of political art because art has meaning, and some people, when they make art, they're trying to make change. And basically, when they're trying to make change in a society, what is that other than politics, right? So it's political art. A lot of this stuff, they'll put it up to make fun of leaders for a specific reason. They'll do it to show what, like, horrors that have been happening, like war crimes or something. Like there's many levels of political art, but I think that some art really can just be for the sake of the artist. There's a lot of art that's for the sake of aesthetic. It's, to me, and I still treat all of that as art. Because I also had the question, what is the definition of art, in my art class, and that took me a while to come up with. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, on politics and art?
Oh, sure. Well, just to make sure that I understand your argument, your point on it is that like if an art is trying to bring a change in the world, or like portray something that is political in nature, then it's political art.
Yeah.
But that if art is made for the sake of the artist, then it kind of loses that political aspect.
Yeah. I think you can just have there, you can separate that meaning of for the artist, for their own emotions or whatever, or for the sake of them making an aesthetic thing that they think people will enjoy and that they like themselves.
Mhm.
Like those types of things, to me, can be separated from political art.
Mhm. So my view of like all art is political is kind of broader in the sense that like to me, especially if art is made for the sake of the artist, that's often when we kind of miss the politics. So what I mean by that is, let's say you think about like artists like Van Gogh, for example, artists that we know. Like the first step is to think about, why do we know these artists? We know these artists because they were able, one, to get the resources that they needed to start to paint, and that they were able to like express how they felt about things, and that they were able to like put their work out there. When you look at that, you start to realize that other artists were not able to like basically point like show their perspectives because they might not have had access to those resources. So then you start to think like, well, what do those art like? What does that art show? And for like a lot of older French painting, it's a lot of like white people in like some like grass and stuff, like eating, wearing certain clothes. And so a lot of that art might have been for the sake of the artist, but when you look at what art like is and isn't showing, you start to see that like some art is showing certain aspects of life, and some and like we don't see art that might be showing other aspects of life. That kind of materializes in video games. When you have video games that like have like white, like just white cis men as protagonists, like no one bats an eye, or like a Call of Duty, you shoot
Okay,
down
I
Arabs.
see what you're saying. So there's like basically
Yeah.
political elements in every piece of art. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Like there, or you could identify them, right? You could not necessarily the artist intention or whatever, but you just as an onlooker, right? From the
it's
viewer's
less that
perspective.
it's less that there is like an active political aspect to
Yeah.
them, and it's more that like what art we choose to look at is political in and of itself,
You can
because like
analyze it in a political lens. Is that what you're kind of? Yeah,
exactly.
I got you.
Like art throughout time, like what art do we choose as a society to look at? How does that shape our history?
That's
Because
true.
it
But
really does.
wait, but hold on. Let me stop you right there because
Yeah.
I think something there is that it's so what art do we look at as a society, right? Is that to me is like you're setting up a set. You're setting up sets of art that's not necessarily the art itself. Like to me, that's a macro level higher than the art itself. Is like what are we looking at? So you're trying to group all of these art together, which I think when you group things together, it does lose a little bit of the individuality and the like kind of I would say creative energy, a
Well,
little bit of it. You know what I'm
a
saying?
museum, a
A museum.
museum.
That's true. That's true. A museum.
It
They
groups
groups
art
together. It groups together art, and it doesn't necessarily group them together based on anything specific. A lot of museums
Well,
just do it based on beauty or many things.
mm,
Yeah, you get what I'm saying though. Like the museum does it through the museum owner's eyes. That's how they group it together. The museum owner's eyes. It has nothing to do with like it's not like there are a bunch of carrot paintings. You know, it's like it's that type of thing. It's not a very defined thing.
well, how can I say this?
Oh shit.
Like imagine like the Mona Lisa. We don't view the Mona Lisa, and I agree with you. Like I agree with you. Like all art is kind of on the same level as a baseline because it's art. But if you think at the Mona Lisa, we really don't put as much value on like other paintings that like random people have painted like in Leonardo da Vinci's time that we put on the Mona Lisa. When we say art, oftentimes and that goes back to magic. When we say art, like people think like, oh, painting that's gonna be in a museum, like, and they might think of a specific piece of art that's like survived the passing of time. But when you start to look at like, okay, why is it in a museum? Like, why has it survived the passing of time? What is it about this piece that like people have decided to like about it and to come back over and over again to like appreciate that? Since we can't experience all art at the same time throughout time, we have to choose. And then how that's manifested itself is that we literally put like more specifically also financial value on certain art, and that kind of in turn has shaped how we view history through that art. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying. And can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So would you also then say that all art is cultural? Because that's another lens that you could look at art through. That's like every piece of art has some type of culture of the artist, of whatever, of the people that are viewing it behind it, right? So would you say that all art is
Yeah.
cultural?
Oh yes, but okay, wait. If you disagree with that, I want to hear it because
I don't
Okay,
disagree
okay,
because
okay.
now that I'm hearing the way you're explaining that in terms of like lenses, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because a lens, right, is magic, as we were talking about earlier, and it creates this world, and that's kind of what the point of art is like you understand things in whatever lens you're seeing it through, and then that understanding though isn't necessarily wrong just because you're seeing it through a lens. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yes, absolutely.
the lens is what kind of makes that understanding what it is, right? So in that sense, following that logic, I could say all art is political. Yeah, I could say that.
hmm
It's just when I think
Okay.
of art in general, and I think of like, okay, if I think of counter examples, you get what I'm saying? I can find other logic to back up
Yeah.
my statement. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just
Well, it's like I think one of the best examples is really like if I say Gamergate, do you know what I'm talking about?
that's wait, is that I know no. I
2016.
know like Pizzagate. I
Oh no. So basically, I'm not gonna use Gamergate as an example, but basically, like, think about. Do you see those YouTubers like? I'm not gonna name any names, but like that railed against like The Last of Us 2 before it came out. That railed against like Battlefield having like a female character on their poster. Like that's not historically accurate. Like,
name
does that
some
ring a
names.
bell?
No,
The quartering.
the okay, okay. I see. Yeah. No,
Ben Shapiro.
I didn't watch any of those really, but I'm interested. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's like they basically were railing against the fact that like games were being political and stuff because it started to shift from
Because
the political lens.
because it's shifting away from their centricity. That's
Yeah,
what it is. Yeah. And that's
but
uncomfortable.
like
That's uncomfortable
exactly.
to the centrist. Yeah. So
Exactly. But like saying that like Battlefield or Call of Duty were never political is absolutely fucking insane.
yeah.
Because
No,
like
yeah,
we're
those
talking about
I
games.
would
Yeah.
definitely identify those as political. I would like
Okay.
yeah. Those are definitely political.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so for that it's easier to grasp for us because here it's like okay there's a conflict where people died and you're choosing like especially like a side as a good guy and bad guy or you're deciding not to have good guys and bad guys which is still political but like to me that logic even though it's harder to see for paintings of like pretty white people sitting on the grass it still applies although there's not as many dimensions as like a video game maybe because it's like intensely more complex there's still that aspect of like well who did they portray why did they portray it that way
And
did we
can,
put a cultural
yeah.
importance on it
Can I toss one thing in there? Is that
go ahead
part of what makes it almost forced, or I guess pretty much what does force it to be political, is that it is a game that's trying to make money. Like it has. They're trying to figure out what appeals the most, and when you're trying to figure out what appeals the most, that's the essence of politics, right? That's how you fucking win in politics. Is you have to appeal. Your ideas have to appeal to people, and so instead of ideas, they just have gameplay and little things in there, which I guess can count as their ideas, right? But like they're still just it's at the end of the day, it's all an appellate thing. Like it's not they're not gameplay is almost you could even argue that gameplay is a secondary focus, I would say, to the political aspect of it. You could even argue that with some games. Obviously some games are definitely pure gameplay, but I'm saying big AAA games or whatever, like yeah, that type of thing.
well yeah it's like how if you
'Cause
have
if
a
they
system that makes like shooting
one more
things feel good, it's like the second step is like, who do we shoot? Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just one more little point in there was also that fuck damn it, what was I saying?
I can say my point
Yeah,
and cut me off if you
I'll
remember
it
it.
again. Okay, you got it. You go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like especially if you have like good gameplay, like Call of Duty games. I'm gonna be honest, they have pretty satisfying gameplay. It's like the next step is who do you kill? Like what do you kill? Who are you and stuff. And then like especially if the gameplay makes what you're doing feel good, and that's where like video games are so much deeper than like or like have so much more involvement in the part of like the person experiencing it than like a painting and stuff. It's like you're involved into whatever the story or the gameplay the video game is doing, and you're literally kind of enacting whatever politics or angles the video game is choosing to basically engage in.
Yeah.
And so it's completely political because and it's not even a bad thing. Like people think of political or even the word bias as a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a
not.
it's a scary
Everyone
word.
has
It's a
bias.
scary word to a lot of people. They don't
Yes.
want to risk anything by engaging
Yeah.
in that word. Yeah.
Yeah, they think like for example, like if you're biased as a journalist, that means you're bad. Like
No,
it just-
identify
no,
your bias, okay, and then work from there. Like that's to me, I definitely follow people that call themselves lefties, that call themselves righties, and I appreciate that they do that, because if they're just lying about it, it's like, what are we doing here? You have no credibility. It's just like, be honest about your own takes, and you're a journalist, so you probably have some. It's like, fuck.
You fucking piece of shit,
you
white person. Like, you have biases, white privilege. You have too many biases. You can't speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then if you don't look at the fucking, but then if you're like, no, white privilege doesn't fucking exist, then it's like, oh, you missed the fucking point.
Yeah,
You
damn
fucking,
it, you missed the boat. You missed the fucking
Yeah.
boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So on one hand, you have like the minority of the minority on Twitter who's like, if you're a certain fucking like skin color, you can't talk, or if you're a certain gender, or if you even thought a bad thought in your life, you can't talk. And on the other end, you have the fucking Nazis who are like, well, you can't call people Nazis because then you can call everyone a Nazi. So like, if you're a certain skin color, you suck. And then you have to like be like in the middle, even though it's not the middle, and like kind of figure out like what is fucking true. Because if you just see those two extremes, I get that people are like, fuck politics. If you say the word political, I'm gonna fucking yeet out of there because like it's a bad word.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense.
That
but
makes
it's like,
that makes
I
a
get
lot of
it.
sense. Yeah.
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 Cool. Well, I am actually super down to wrap up right there. If you are.
Yeah, me too.
That was awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Oh yeah, that was really cool.
Or what are you thinking about? When would you maybe want to do another one?
I'm down. Okay, so here's the problem. I'm gonna be on vacation, so I'm not gonna be able to do one for like maybe a month. But
Okay.
once I get into my apartment in September and stuff, and I'm able to do this more regularly, I'm down to do it like every
We can knock it
week,
out
every couple
yeah.
weeks,
Yeah,
just
every
like
week,
in a
every couple.
regular schedule.
Yeah, I'm
And I'll
totally
prepare
down.
topics and shit.
Oh, that's perfect, Robin. That's what I like to fucking hear. Yes, sir. All right.
Oh,
Perfect.
there's so much shit happening in the US, dude. Like, we didn't even talk
Dude.
about like the Texas bill that passed. Like, I will never fucking run out of like topics.
Oh,
Never.
that's exactly what I need, because I never have any topics. So it's perfect. All right, dude.
That's perfect, man.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll set that up. And yeah, it was awesome talking, man.
All right, perfect. It was good talking to you.
All right, bro.
All right, I'll see you later.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, guys. If anyone's still in the stream, thank you guys for watching. That was a pretty awesome podcast number 4. And yeah, appreciate it. Peace.